I struggled with romantic personal relationships for a really long time. Like, a really long time. I always wanted connection and closeness and that type of partnership and interdependency in a relationship, and I was not getting it. I kept attracting people who were really toxic, who were hurtful and harmful and caused me a lot of trauma or brought a lot of chaos to my life. They were not good partners. And it was in my personal development and growth journey that I realized that the center point of all of these problems was me. I was really out of alignment in how I was creating relationships and accepting relationships. It's kind of a fact that crappy people swarm to anyone who will pay attention to them. There are always going to be very horrible people who are going to be pursuing you. But it's your choice whether or not you accept them into your life and how far you accept them into your life. There are choices we have in this matter. And it seems really lonely because if I say no, maybe there's nobody else out there. And personal growth is a kind of lonely journey in a lot of ways. We start to learn about our values and where we stand, and as we do that, things fall away and we start saying no, and we start choosing ourselves over something that might be good. I'm Kim Pirano. I am a transformational coach, hypnotherapist, and acupuncture and Chinese medicine doctor, and I want to give you some points for how creating and living your life in authenticity will help you create authentic, fulfilling, and healthy relationships. Our first point is that authenticity attracts authenticity. I use a lot of shadow work in my practice, and shadow work helps us get in touch with those qualities or parts of ourselves that we find to be unacceptable. And when we get in touch with those qualities and we accept them, it makes us more authentic. We start living from more of our entire being instead of this one little wedge of the persona we find to be acceptable to put out into the world. So when we start becoming more authentic, we start attracting more authentic people into our lives. And in the meantime, it's a little lonely sometimes. As you start leaning into your authenticity, we start saying no to things that don't feel authentic to us anymore. And that can feel a little bit lonely. I promise you, it's not lonely forever. We just have to keep moving forward and committing to ourselves in that process. The next quality that we should have to create healthy relationships is clear communication. And clear communication is not just what we say and how we say it. That's sort of the tip of the iceberg. Clear communication starts with a lot of self-awareness and living in integrity. This means understanding myself, understanding what I want, what I need, what I desire, how I'm feeling, what certain things do to me, or how certain things make me feel. When I know these parts of myself, then I can clearly communicate with another person how I'm feeling or what I need. But we have to have that self-awareness first. Doing coaching, therapy, shadow work, journaling, meditation, all of these things can help us get back in touch with that aspect of self-awareness, where we start becoming more okay with all of the awareness we have about ourselves, not just the stuff we want to see as well. The next piece that I talk about all the time is emotional resilience. Now, emotional resilience in relationship looks like being able to have that tough conversation. Brene Brown calls it rumbling, where we're able to bring that stuff up, bring it to the table with courage, and talk about what's going on. We also need to remember that we also want people in our lives who reflect that emotional resilience. So if I have a problem in a relationship and I bring it up with my partner and they flip out at me, this might be a sign that that's not a person who has that ability to tolerate the discomfort enough to have a healthy conversation about it. So what we want to do is not only have our own emotional resilience, be able to bring those things up in the first place, also be willing to be open to having those things brought to you, and to learn where our line is for what we will and won't accept as far as how someone interacts with us in those tough moments. One of the things I have on my list of a mandatory in a partner is a willingness and wanting to grow on their own and together. This is mutual growth and support. I think this is a really important quality in healthy relationships, and sometimes we don't really acknowledge it for what it is, but it's so important because our own growth is sort of inevitable. We're always going to be growing, evolving, and changing as people. So having somebody who's also aware of that and wants that for us and for themselves can really make a relationship great. It can also mean that there's a level of awareness with that relationship where we're okay with letting it go if our growth paths diverge in different places. So that's something that's always been very important to me, is being with somebody where I didn't feel like I had to be with them or that they would just absolutely crumble without me around them. That they knew that if we both grew in different ways, letting the relationship go while being unpleasant and difficult and hard would ultimately be the best thing, and that they were okay with that. That's a quality that helps me feel really safe in a relationship. And I'm sure some of you might resonate with that, or maybe it looks a little bit differently, but having that mutual growth and support is very fundamental in having a good, authentic relationship. And finally, probably one of the most important pieces on this list is boundaries and self-care. Boundaries are about what you will and won't accept. They're not about what other people do. So a boundary is not, you can't yell around me. It's, if you yell around me, I'm going to leave this conversation. Having a really clear grasp on what our values are, what our needs and wants are for ourselves in a relationship or in a group, help us to set boundaries. And being able to set those boundaries and hold them, enforce them, is key to authentic relationships. So if you are like me, you probably really struggled with boundaries for a really long time. Learning how to make boundaries, having the help of a guide, a coach to help you learn how to navigate that windy road of boundary setting can be super helpful to have that support alongside of you. And this is something that will 100% guaranteed change your relationships, hopefully for the better. Some of them obviously fall away when we start really living in our authentic self and in our integrity with ourselves. The things that don't align with that tend to fall away. And we make peace with that, with our emotional resilience, and say, that's okay, that wasn't for me. So I hope this was interesting and useful information for you. Feel free to drop a comment with what one of these qualities you struggle with the most, or which one you've recently realized was something you should be working on. For me, it's definitely the emotional resilience part. And if you're looking for help with creating authentic relationships in your life, just living your life in an authentic way and getting to know yourself in that type of deep way, please click the link to schedule a discovery call. We'll do a little mini shadow work session on that call and find out if working together might be a good fit for you.